There are a few more color codings and little images related to these layers that are going to help describe what they are quite a bit. You'll notice that one of the layers is blue right now and one of them is gray. Well, when I click on a layer, it becomes selected. And whatever layer is selected is going to be colored blue, and the one that's not selected is going to be colored gray. What does that mean basically is that when I draw on a panel, I'm going to be drawing on the layer that is selected. So I had the dog layer selected, and when I drew, it drew on top of the dog. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to select the background layer, and I'm going to draw the exact same stroke. However, notice that the stroke jumps behind the dog. That's because, as you can see in the layer thumbnail right there, and you can also see it in the thumbnail layers below the image, I was drawing on the background layer. So when you have more than one layer, it's really important that you know which layer you're drawing on. So that is how you can tell, and you can see that whether the tabs have been collapsed or whether they are popped out. Notice that there are eyeballs on these layers. This just indicates whether the layer is visible or not. So if I click on the eyeballs and make the eyeballs go away, that layer has become invisible. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's not been deleted. It's just I don't want to be looking at it right now. So I will click that. And the same thing for the background. I can make the background disappear for right now. Maybe it's getting in the way, and then I can click it and come back. Another feature of these layer tabs, and it applies whether it is collapsed or not, is there is a little grayed out circle with a slash through it, and that allows you to lock a layer. So right now if I click on the background layer, that is the one that's selected. Now when I click on the lock button, it will not allow me to draw on it anymore. So if you've got a drawing and it's just the way you want it and you just want to make sure that it doesn't get messed up, you can lock the layer. And as you see, when I try to draw on it, I get the circle with a red slash through it, and that definitely tells me that that something's wrong. So if you're ever having trouble drawing, you may want to make sure you're drawing on the right layer and make sure the layer isn't locked. Layers can also be moved. I'll show you about that in a little bit, but the reason I mention it now is because sometimes it's easy to accidentally click the locked layer. So if you need to move a layer, click on it and drag. I like to use the name of the layer as the easiest way for me to make sure I'm doing it in the right place. If you click on a layer in the wrong place, you might turn it off or lock it. You can also control the opacity of a layer. So I have two layers here, and if I want to be able to control the opacity, I can do it in a couple of different places. One is to pop out the layer tabs, and you'll see that whichever layer I've selected, it shows the opacity, which is basically the degree to which we can see through that drawing. Right now at 100%, that means that it's completely opaque, but if you want to click and then drag downward, you'll notice that your drawing starts to fade away to absolutely nothing. So it's an opacity of 0. If you want to bring it back, just click again on layer opacity and drag on that symbol however much you want to. So now he's at 67, he's in a middle state of transparency. If you want to enter in numbers manually, you could just click on here in the opacity little window box there and type in whatever number that you want to, which can be helpful if you're trying to maintain the same transparency over a different area. Anyway, enter in the number and then press enter, and you can see that he has become 100% opaque once again. Another place that you can change the opacity of a layer is in the layers view, which is one of the tabs that you may have over here in the area that also holds your tools properties. So there is a layers tab available. Now I'm going to make mine disappear so that I can show you how to put it there if you don't have one currently on your screen. So I'm going to just delete that. So right now, if I wanted to have a layers view and I don't have one, I could go up to Windows, come down to Layers, click on that, and it has been placed now in the layers view. I'm going to make it disappear again and show you a different way. If you want to put the layers view in there, you can click on that downward arrow and scroll down until you see layers, and it will pop up in there. And the same works for all those other types of views that you can see in that downward arrow. Anyway, now that I'm here in the layers view, you'll see it's very similar in setup to what we have in this pop-out tab. So you may want to not use the pop-out tab at all and use a layers view. It's completely up to you, whatever's most convenient for you. Here you can control opacity of the selected layer by clicking on the arrows and dragging down or dragging up. Same way. You also have many other options here which are discussed in the chapters on exporting and coming up next where we talk about adding layers and moving them as well. Some people like to use the opacity to make their backgrounds fainter while they're drawing on a scene, and that way it may be easier to look at while you're working on a scene because you don't want the background to be so obtrusive. There are other ways of handling that may be a little bit easier, like just using a much lighter color for some of your background elements. And the reason why is that if you combine a transparent layer with a non-transparent layer, when they are combined into one layer, everything comes back and becomes 100% again. So it's a good solution for making a layer temporarily more transparent or temporarily more faded. But if you want to use it as a recurring way of keeping your backgrounds lighter, you're probably better off just using lighter color paintbrush strokes. I'm going to talk about merging layers in one of the next videos, but just to demonstrate what can happen with a transparent layer when it's merged, I will merge it with this one. I'll show you how to do this soon, but for right now I'm going to right click on two layers that I have selected and then hit merge selected layers, and you can see that that background when it merged came back to be its full strength, as it were. So watch the background as I click undo, and you can see that before I merged them, that transparent background was much lighter than when I combined them.